I said, hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. Just kidding. Everything is right. What is going on, you guys? My name is Matt, and I talk about Air Pokemon cards. Now let's get right into this week's episode. Kicking things off, we have a Reverse Holo Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. And this is from Temporal Forces, and this is a Holo Shift error. So basically what happened here is the Holo layer got shifted down a little bit, and it basically looks like there is a shadow basically cast on all of the cards there. It's very cool. Most apparent, I would say, by the text there in the middle of the card, but you can definitely, if you stare at the card longer, you can see different parts where it really is shifted quite a bit. It's very unique, and this card was listed for $30 this week, and it sold for $20. And with an error value increase of 813%, this is actually number 8 this week on their list of error value increases. I know I'm going to get 100 comments because I'm really popular and everything, but my shirt says Iroh's Gym. I'm actually going to an Avatar live in concert where they play the orchestra over some of the scenes from the show. I'm going to that this Friday, and I'm very excited. Oh wow, next up we have a first edition Ivy Pikachu, and the error is the first edition stamp should not be there. These always sell for a lot, and the typical selling price I usually see for these is around $200 to $300, I would say, when they're raw. Couple things about this. This card is in pretty good shape, and I believe that it should have sold for more. I always say it, and I will continue to say it. If you are listing a card for sale and it's in the auction, you're not going to get as much money as you hope. I think this sold for less than it should have. $163 is still a lot of money for a Pokemon card, but I think it could have gone for $200, $250. Either way, average non-error price is $8.87, and that gives us a 1,743% EVI. And that's good enough for number 6 this week. Next up, we have a PSA 9 Houndoom from Neo Revelation, and this is the double holo variant. Best way to tell with Houndoom is look at the outline. There is a white border, especially on the left side of Houndoom, and that border is not there in the double holo variant. Also a lot more sparkly stars in there. This one sold for $555.55. That reminds me, if you are buying a Air Pokemon card, end your bid on 22 cents. So like $20.22 or $30.22, whatever it is. I look at all of the error cards that are sold on eBay, and I think it would be so cool to see one that actually ends in 22. That would show me that my audience is out there purchasing. It would make me feel really good. I'll give you an incredible shout out if I see one. So do that, please. Now back to the card. You can see the description here. It says that first editions are usually more rare to find a double holo, and we usually find that true, and that's true in the error value increase as well. Typically a standard card like this will be around 100 to 200% EVI, and you can see that is absolutely the case right here. We have 100% EVI. Typically goes for around $278 for a grade 9. So very cool card. It's cool that the sale price was all 5s. Let's get on to the next card. Okay, when I first saw this card, I thought this was going to be the craziest EVI I've ever seen in my life. I thought, oh, this is just a standard promo Snorlax. This is going to be absolutely insane because for some reason this went for $235.50. Well, little did I know that this is actually a Pokemon Center exclusive card, and so that makes it worth a lot more. You can see average non-error price is $82.73. And so when you add a crimp to this already very expensive card, it sells for a lot more. $235 for a modern Pokemon card. That's crazy. Don't know how these cards got distributed. I did not look, but damn, that's a lot of money, especially for a modern promo card. But yes, this is the crimp error if you are unaware. The crimping machine that basically closes the cards into the plastic there. Sometimes it gets misaligned and it leaves an indentation on the card, typically on the top of the card, sometimes on the bottom. Just depends how it gets misaligned. And this is a pretty clean crimp, and gosh darn, helped it sell for a lot of money. Do you hear that? I hear some jazz music. You know what that means? It's time for another edition of Sam Finds the Error. Now, Sam is a good friend of mine. He is pretty familiar with Pokemon. He plays Pokemon Go, but he does not know error cards too much. And I like to do a weekly segment where I send him a photo of an error card, and I see how long it takes him to find the error. Now, spoiler alert, this is actually a card I found on eBay and purchased, and I am excited to talk about it after Sam finds that error. Take it away, Sam.
Hey there, Matt. Thanks so much for having me on again this week. I'm looking forward to looking at a Pokemon card. Hello to everybody watching. I hope you guys are having a great week. Let's dive straight into it. Alright, so this week we are looking at mystery card. It's a Vulpix. Alright, so here's what I'm thinking. Alright, so I don't see anything immediately wrong with the art. I'm seeing this back foot that does look a little funky. It doesn't match the rest of these, so that is definitely possible. I'm not seeing anything obvious up in this top section here. Nothing appears to be spelled wrong throughout here. I think that's the actual error. I don't think this is the error. I think that this watermark here is the error. The water symbol here is white instead of being blue, and is spotty instead of being, well, solid blue. So I think that's going to be my final answer. Maybe it's a double error card, I don't know, but that's what I'm going with. So yeah, stop the clock, I guess. I hope you guys all found it faster than I did. I feel like that was pretty quick this week. I hope everyone has a great week. Matt, thanks so much for having me on, and see you guys later. Bye.
I do not know how Sam did. My guess, 35 seconds. I don't know. Was I right? Let me know. So this is a Shadowless Vulpix, and this is a low ink error. I don't know exactly what it would be called, but one of these sold recently. I believe about a month ago, and I talked about it on one of my episodes. Let me pull up that screenshot here. So yeah, a similar card to this sold about a month ago, a little bit less. I think it was, during week 30 of my series here. And it was listed for $280 and sold for $75. And you can see it's basically the same as mine. I'll pull them up side by side here. So it's the weakness energy symbol there with the water symbol. And you can see there is not a lot of blue ink in there. It looks like a toddler tried to color in the lines and just did a horrible job. And that one has a little bit more ink splattered around than mine does. But the fact that there are two cards like this shows that this is actually a repeating error, and supposedly it's somewhat well known, not documented as much as some of these other errors, but still a well-known error. And yeah, this one sold for $75. I got mine for $1, $2.50 if you count shipping, so total. But I think this is a freaking steal. I purchased it probably a couple minutes after it got posted, and I was just freaking excited to get this. This is, I think, one of the cooler error cards I have. I have it somewhere around here. So yeah, this is one of the cooler error cards I have. I always love having the backstory behind it, and you can see it right here. The card's in pretty good shape, actually. Look at that. Yeah. I try to share the error cards that I find whenever I find them, especially because I'm kind of a deal hunter, so I like to find them when they're not listed as an error card. But I always do a bad job, and I could not think of a card to have Sam review this week, and so I just decided, you know what, let's do one that I found myself. So yeah, your boy is the deal hunter on eBay, and that's all I gotta say about that. Let's get into the next card. So we're going to have a decent amount of no symbol errors here, and I should probably have saved this one for later in the video, but I'm going to show it now, just because, you kind of want to show some of the bigger ones at the end, but whatever. I just do random orders here. This is a PSA 10 Japanese base set Pikachu with the no rarity error. So no rarity cards are kind of thought to be as the first edition cards in the Japan Pokemon world. So no rarity is always cool. They sell for a decent amount more, especially when you have the ones like the Pikachus and the Charizards and just any of the holos, really. So no rarity cards were printed for only about 3 months, and standard Japanese base set cards were printed for about 4 years with the rarity symbol. So what would that be? I hate doing math on camera. 1/16 as rare, so 16 times as rare as a standard card. Did I do that right? I think I did. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. They're rare, and this one sold for a lot of money. This one sold for $3,507, but it sold in auction. So this is a lot of money, and sometimes I have trouble trusting price charting, but price charting has a PSA 10 Average price going for around $10,000. So I know sometimes that can be skewed, but that means there has been a card before that has sold for $10,000. And it's documented. So this card could have went for a decent bit more, but still $3,500 for a Pokemon card is crazy. Especially a non-holo card. Wow. Average non-air PSA 10 goes for around $190, and that gives us a 1,756% air value increase. And that's good enough for number 5 this week. Here's another no rarity. We have a PSA 9 Gyarados, and this one sold for $2,025. You can see average non-air price is around $78, and so this gives it a 2,500% air value increase, which is good enough for number 3 this week. And price charting has $2,025 as the exact average price for a grade 9 no rarity symbol, which is weird. I don't know if they updated that because of this sale or what, or if it's just a crazy coincidence, but I think that's pretty cool. Next up, we have a card that sold on Fanatics Collect. This used to be PWCC, and this is a Topps Dragonite. This is a holo card. I believe this is from the first Pokemon movie. This got graded a CGC 7.5, and this is pretty severely miscut. I don't know what card that is to the left of it, but you can see about 1/8 of another card is poking its way through on the left side there. It's pretty darn neat, but this didn't sell for a lot at all. That's one thing about Fanatics Collect is you can find crazy deals on there because unless it's a crazy high chase card or something, it usually doesn't sell for that much, and it kind of just gets lost in the weeds. And so this one sold for $72 this week, giving it a 31% EVI, which I think is extremely low for this card. So good for you, whoever got this. If you're watching this, let me know. You're probably not. That's all right. Oh, so next up we have a few Delta playtest cards. These were basically, they had the Alpha, Beta, and then the Delta cards. With each one of these, they added more details to the cards. I believe, yeah, they were adding things like the illustrator, different colors and everything. These are just essentially some of the cards that the Pokemon Company were printing to test out to see how they would play and how they look and everything. And so these are an incredible piece of history, and we have several of them here. This is a Blastoise that got graded a CGC 9.5, and it sold for $19,375. I do not have any price to compare this to, any card to compare this to. I think it's just cool to appreciate them because this is pretty incredible. Next up, we have a Charizard. Take a look at it, soak it in. $27,500 for a CGC 9. Incredible. And then my favorite, Venusaur, sold for $13,750. That's a lot of money. I believe this was actually on Heritage Auctions. Ooh, next up we have the big three, Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard once again, but this is base set packs, and this is the triangle error. The black triangle error. So essentially what happened here, there was a few hours of printing where they had base set cards, standard base set cards in these packs, but they got printed with the first edition symbol on them. And so in order to cover up that mistake, they basically put a black triangle covering that up. They are a very cool piece of history to have. I think the fact that they only got printed for a couple of hours, that shows that there really aren't too many of these out there, is very unique. For average pricing, I just went on price charting and saw that an ungraded pack of base set cards is around $400. That might be off a little bit, but I just times that by 3, gave us $1,200, and so EVI of 68%. But I think this is just very cool to talk about, and just, again, a very cool piece of history. Next up, we have another no rarity card. This is a PSA 8 Hitmonchan. This is a holo card, and had an EVI of 1,175%, and it sold for $433. That's a lot. Average non-air price is only $34, which is kind of surprising to me. And so that means the air value increase is 1,175%. And that's good enough for number 7 this week. Next up, we have a first edition Dragonair with the Rainbow Smear error. So essentially what this is if you look under Slam, the attack, where it says number, there is a smudge that is covering up the U, and this is a repeating error. Error value increase is never high for this because a first edition rare Pokemon card sells for a lot already. You can see average non-error price is $107, and so this one really doesn't add too much of a premium to it, but yes, this sold for $150 this week. Woo! Next up, we have one I meant to talk about last week. So I talked about this card 2 weeks ago, and it was a not factory cut card. The seller sold it, and if you don't know, I reach out to every seller that has a card that I talked about in an episode, and I let them know, hey, I talked about this, and people think it's cool, and it's kind of a good way for me to get more exposure and to just kind of build the community a little bit more. And I always ask them, where'd you get this card? Because I think it's cool to hear the backstories, and this one is a little bit interesting. So the person who sold this card, they originally purchased it while they were interested in error cards, and they thought it was really cool, and they thought it was very interesting how it showed the border and the edge of sheet miscut there. And they tried to send it to PSA and CGC to see if they can get an authentic label with no grade, but they both came back rejected. And then they saw a little bit later that CGC actually wrote an article about this card, and I will put that up on the screen here. They kind of did them dirty. They didn't, apparently CGC didn't tell this user about this card either, and they labeled it fake error card, major miscut Raichu. Though the fossil Raichu card is authentic, the way it was purposefully cut from an uncut sheet was clearly meant to fool collectors. And yeah, I'll just scroll through if you want to pause and read it. It's interesting what they say about it, but basically they just they did the seller dirty, and they wrote this article kind of slamming them without even telling them. And obviously this was not the fault of the seller at all. They never claimed it to be a real card at all. They just wanted to see if they could get it authenticated because it was from an actual uncut sheet. Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that this user got the card, sent it to CGC, CGC sent it back, and then wrote an article without telling them, kind of slamming them a little bit, and slamming NFC cards in general. That's all. On to the next card. So next up we have a Gyarados. This is a Top Sun Gyarados, and this is a no number Top Sun Gyarados. There we go. So no numbers are essentially considered to be some of the first Pokemon cards ever created. I believe the actual first, I don't know, there's so many Pokemon cards created that are old and everything. Either way, essentially the error here is that there is no number next to the name there. So in the pink box there should be 130, and that is missing. This is thought to be a repeating error, and usually sells for quite a bit, as you can see. Gyarados is one that usually sells for higher too. I find that interesting. Doesn't for some of the other Pokemon cards, but does for this. So this sold for $290 this week. Average non-error price is $34.62, and that gives us a 738% error value increase. And that's good enough for number 9 this week. Next up, we have a PSA 10 Nintendo error. This is an Ancient Mew, and what this is basically the third N in Nintendo is missing on the bottom of the card. It is a repeating error, and there is typically several of these sold each week in a PSA 10, and I find it interesting to track the pricing for it. Price charting says $1,200, but that hasn't been right for a while. I see it range from $900 to $1,400, and you can see this one sold for $1,100 this week. Next up, we have a PSA 8 Haunter from Fossil Set, and this is the Mirror Hollow error. Basically, all the little sparkly stars in there, they're missing, so you just have a perfect mirror finish. This happened in all the Wizards of the Coast cards. It could happen in those cards, and always very interesting. It sells for a decent amount, not crazy like some of these other ones. You can see sold for $120 and had an EVI of 167%. Next up, we have a Mew EX. This is from the Pokemon Evolutions 2016, and this is a miscut. We can see that cheeky little alignment dot in the top left corner and on the top right corner on the back of the card, and is obviously shifted to the right a decent amount, and sold for $50. Welcome back to another example of Matt cheating, lying, and scamming his way to the top. All jokes aside, but not really, am I? I don't know. I try to include some newsworthy, eye-catching information in every episode, and then I make a thumbnail of it, and a lot more people watch it. If you are watching, subscribe. Thank you. And this week is very interesting. We have an error card opening caught on camera. Play the clip.
Są parę złotych droższy. Parę złotych, parę euro droższy. Zależy od błędu i zależy od karty.
Alright, looks like Crown Zenith pack. Oh!
No właśnie, kurwa, my rozmawiamy o błędach. Ja pierdolę,
Look
co
at
to
that.
jest, ludzie? Co to jest?
Oh man!
Co to jest, słuchajcie? To jest dopiero błąd. To jest dopiero błąd.
Oh, I don't know what he's saying. That is incredible, though. So yes, and I reached out to the seller, make sure this is okay I talked about, and also got a little bit more background information. So the owner of this card, his name is Mikolaj, and he actually posted this card and the link to this video on Facebook, in the Facebook group I'm in. So he informed me that he purchased a mystery pack for $65, which contained 6 packs total. He purchased it from Poke Collectibles, which is a shop in Poland. So how it works is the shop owner opens the person's cards, and then they send it to them after, but you get to see it on live stream, which is kind of a fun event. And that is where Mikolaj's card got pulled, the error card. So it's thought that this is a texture-only card, and there's not a lot of the other details that you're used to seeing, so you're basically just seeing the reflective nature of the card. Mikolaj informed me in the group that I'm in that he was thinking about sending it to PSA, but then he decided against it because they will not grade that error. For right now, he's just going to sit on the card, but at some point he'd like to get it graded with CGC. So overall, a very incredible card, and how cool to see it filmed live and get to see that and get to see the reaction of someone actually pulling an error card. Even if it wasn't their own, you know, the shop owner, we still get to see it and just see the general reaction of it. I think that's awesome, and I appreciate Mikolaj, and really hope you enjoy your card, man. Now put it in the thumbnail. Now here's a big dog. Here we have a base set Beedrill with the D.E fending error. If you look under Poison Sting, there is a period after the D in defending, and obviously that should not be there, and this is a repeating error too, and they sell for a lot. I don't know how many copies are out there. I feel like we've seen maybe 8 to 10 sell the 34 weeks I've been watching this, and so really don't come around too often, and whenever they do, they sell for a lot. You can see the back of the card above me here. It's not in the best condition, but despite all of that, it sold for $200 freaking dollars. Wow. $200, average non-error price is $3.13. That gives us a 6,200 and freaking 90% error value increase. And that's good enough for number 2 this week. It's been documented. You can look back and see this card has been number 1 before, and so I don't know. It's interesting it's number 2. Next up, we have a Dark Arbok from Team Rocket's set, and no, it's not the 23,000 error on the bottom. Everyone has that, and so it's not an error. Or it is, but it's not a cool error. This one is a hollow shift error, which is actually a repeating error, basically where the hollow foil is shifted to the left in respect to the rest of the card. You can see it on the inside of the art box on the right side there, and also it looks like it's shifted over to the left of Arbok there. A very cool one. I know some people have picked this up for a lot less before. That was where someone didn't know it was an error when they were selling it. But when people do know it's an error, it sells for quite a bit. You can see this one sold for $150 this week. Average non-error price is around $7, and so that gives us a 2,049% EVI. And that's good enough for number 4. Next up, we have an interesting one. We have a CGC 7 Gollum. This is a Topps card, and this is from Chrome Series 1, and this is a missing texture error. Now look at the difference between the error and the non-error card. That is just fascinating to me. You can see it's missing a lot of texture, a lot of what really makes the card stand out and everything. It looks like Gollum is just sitting there in a black void. Now part of me is thinking, there was only 2 photos here. Would it look a lot different if it was angled a little bit? I don't know, but either way, this was a documented error from CGC, and from what we're seeing here, it looks completely different. That's crazy. Again, I could be wrong with this, but either way, this is a very cool error, one that I have not seen before, and sold for only $50 this week, which I think is a little bit low. Maybe not, though. But it is. I'm right. Next up, we have a PSA 7 Haunter from Fossil Set, and this is the blue ink smear error. Sorry, the blue stain error, or just the stain error as PSA calls it. One of the few errors that PSA recognizes, actually. So this is where, on the right side of the art box, Haunter, to the right of Haunter, there is a blue ink smear. It's more apparent at an angle, but if you look head on, you can still see it kind of the right side of the art box there. And this one was listed for $300. Got cut in half to $150 and sold for that much. EVI of 506%, and that's actually good enough for number 10 this week. So even though I think we have kind of a strong upper half of the top 10, the lower half of the top 10 is kind of weak. I can't remember if we've had a 500% in the top 10 before. Interesting. Next up, we have a Charmander GameStop promo card. I thought the EVI was going to be insane because it's like, holy crap, this promo card sold for $120, but average non-error price is $33.79. So essentially what the error is here is there was 2 Charmanders put into this sealed promo pack instead of 1, which is very unique, and supposedly it doesn't happen very often because it's sold for $120 freaking dollars. That's crazy. Again, both of this is crazy to me. So $120 is crazy for that, but also the average non-error price of $33 is crazy to me. They must not have given out too many of these. EVI of 255%. And wouldn't you know it, we're on the last card. Here we have a Water Energy card, and this was from, I don't know when, I think it said 2013, and this is an inverted and miscut back. Inverted, miscut, and edge of sheet miscut back. Very unique, and wow, did it sell for a lot. So I could not find pricing for this card, but if you want to argue with me that a 2013 Water Energy card is worth more than $1, go ahead, and I'll go toe-to-toe with you. And one thing I found out recently is that it seems like a lot of the inverted back cards have a miscut orientation like this, where it's basically shifted to the right and down more, and that is due to how the sheets are aligned. And so when the sheet gets put on backwards, it basically has this orientation, so it's more likely to get cut like this. But you don't see a edge of sheet miscut too often. I think that's why this sold for as much as it did. $65 for a energy card. Pretty crazy? But also, the craziest thing about this is the EVI is 6,400% and number 1 this week. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.